Hello and welcome to the Hibs Observer Scottish Cup pre-match briefing with myself, Liam Bryce, joined by Murray Grayston of the Ayrshire Weekly Press to get an insight into Friday night's opponents at Somerset Park, Ayr United. A really interesting, fascinating and probably in all likelihood a very, very challenging cup tie for Hibs this week. Ayr sitting top of the championship under former Hibs Scott Brown and very much riding the crest of a wave, understandably. Murray, first of all, thank you very much for joining us. How are you getting on?
Not too bad, thank you, and cheers for having me on. Good to be here and good to talk about a game that, as you're aware, is close to my heart in two ways, both professionally and personally.
Yep, aye. I know. It'll be a kind of fascinating one all round. I think just before we get stuck in, just a word as always for our sponsor. It's Good Vibes Giveaways, and they're proud to sponsor the Hibs Observer and offer fantastic prizes to fans of the club. Prizes change weekly and will include tech and gadgets, days out, weekends away, tax-free cash, and even Oasis tickets. So get your tickets now at www.goodvibesgiveaways.com. So you actually preempted my first question there, Murray. This game does have a special significance for you then?
Yeah, so even though I'm based down here in Ayrshire, I am a lifelong Hibs fan. So it's always good to have a game on our doorstep and a game that I know a little bit about. Obviously, Ayr would probably be my local team alongside Kilmarnock. But I'm a Hibs fan, and I would typically have been in the away end and at the railway end. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately, I'll be in with the press pack on Friday, taking in the game from a professional standpoint. I'll try and remain as neutral as possible, of course.
It can be a challenge sometimes. I've seen the odd thing in press boxes down the years, but hopefully you're able to hold yourself together for 90 minutes. It's kind of all round a fascinating tie. I think I've used the word fascinating 5 times already since we started this, but it's probably you look at the fixture list. It's definitely the pick of the bunch without even introducing any bias into that. I think it's the most interesting tie of the rounds. You get the kind of added elements of it being a Friday night. The BBC cameras are going to be there. A big crowd, really strong ticket sales on both sides. So I mean, there must be down Ayrshire way a kind of real sense of occasion building.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even just kind of away from the kind of form of the two sides, so two of the kind of most informed sides in the country kind of facing off against each other. You've got the aspect of Scott Brown and Stephen Whittaker coming up as managers against the team where they both started their journey. So that's a kind of another added element to it as well. So it's certainly going to be interesting. It's going to be one of the kind of bigger tests, our biggest test since they've came in. Obviously, they played up at Ibrox last season in this stage of the competition as well, but at that point they were in the door about 5 minutes. Now they've had a kind of full year to kind of build their own side there, put their own stamp on things, and I think they're definitely in a much better position to cause an upset now than they were this time 12 months ago.
Yeah, so if anybody who hasn't seen Ayr United under Scott Brown, what can you tell us about them? How do they like to play? Any kind of, I mean, I'm sure there's definitely a few, but who stands out for you as kind of, the kind of the main men at the moment? What can Hibs expect from them once the game kicks off?
I mean, it's been a season of kind of two halves for Ayr. They started away really well. They got 5 wins from their first 7 games, and they were plugging away at the top of the league. Then it just kind of dipped off, roughly the same time as Anton Dowd's got injured. He started the season really well, 5 goals in just about as many games. And his kind of long-term injury coincided with a real dip in form. But then it kind of switched again, kind of come November time. It was a change of formation actually that done that, and Scott Brown's kind of started setting up his side really similar to how David Gray sets up Hibs, with the 3 at the back, and it was initially with kind of 4 across the middle and 3 up front, whereas now that's switched more to a kind of traditional 3-5-2, and that's really kind of what's brought the best form out of them. They're playing up with kind of Jay Henderson playing almost in a free role, just next to George Oakley, who's now the Scottish Championship's top scorer after what was a pretty challenging start to his kind of time at Ayr. He's really caught form. I think is it 7 goals since the 21st of December. So he's a real man in form, and Jay Henderson playing off him. He's got, I think, the most assists in the Scottish Championship as well. So it's a partnership that's really been fruitful for them, and I think it's one that they're really going to have to watch out for. And even away from those two main men up front, playing with a kind of midfield three of Conor McLean and Jamie Murphy, and then Ben Dempsey just kind of sitting in behind. But in Jamie Murphy and Conor McLean, it's two creative players who are also comfortable pulling out wide, which kind of compensates for the fact that their wing backs aren't. They're more traditional fullbacks than they are wing backs. And Nick McAllister, who was suspended actually on Saturday, and I think it's I've got lost in my words. It's I'll come back to that one in a second.
I do that all the time, to be honest.
But yeah, they're not kind of. Paddy Redden, that came to my head there. They're more traditional fullbacks, so they don't really bomb forward as much. But when you've got someone like Jamie Murphy and Conor McLean who can pull into those wide areas, it makes it a lot harder to pick up players. And it's probably somewhere where they can get at Hibs, because, as you know, we play with almost the opposite in terms of wing backs, in that we've got more attacking style wing backs that are more comfortable playing further forward in the park. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges. A lot of Ayr's goals come from crosses into the box, which is understandable with a striker like George Oakley up there. And stopping those crosses into the box is going to be a big part. And it's somewhere where I think Ayr will have identified they can get at Hibs, because I think everyone knows that it's been a bit of an Achilles heel recently for Hibs is conceding from those crosses into the box. So it's kind of something that they're going to have to be wary of on Friday. And it's definitely where I think Ayr will get the most success.
Get the most joy. So what about, just to kind of a bit of sort of general style of play, Ayr are a side who are going to try and play out from the back? Do they go a bit more direct, or, as maybe we've seen with Hibs at times, is it, kind of horses for courses, good at, kind of adapting their style? What can Hibs expect in that sense?
I think it is very much a kind of, they adapt to what suits. They are very good at holding possession, moving the ball from side to side. If it's not working down the right, they'll very quickly shift it out to the other flank and do it that way. But it's not a team that's going to sit and hold possession and, try and not give the ball away. And it's not possession for possession's sake, if that's what you want to call it. It's very purposeful anytime they do come forward with the ball. And I think they've never been a kind of possession dominant team throughout the season. It's always been kind of round about the 50-50 mark. Now, whether we'll see Hibs have more possession in this game and they're sitting back and kind of playing on the counter, I think that's more likely. And they've got the pace there to go forward and kind of exploit the spaces that are made on the counter attack. And I think that's probably the approach we're going to see them more. When I'm saying they don't play with kind of traditional wing backs, they're very comfortable sitting in as that kind of flat back five almost anytime they're out of possession, which then helps in transition get the ball forward into their kind of more attacking players. And when they play with a kind of central three of Murphy, Dempsey and McLennan and Murphy are very much more attacking minded players. So getting the ball into them to then shift it into the kind of the right areas and the areas where there'll be space to exploit is probably, I'd say, kind of more their play style. And like I say, they're all very comfortable playing right across the midfield, that kind of whole five. So they're not in a fixed position in their set there. They will be kind of drifting all over, which I think makes them a lot harder to kind of pick up for the team defending.
And I think just even away from, tactics, style of play, just anything like that, this is a team that are, riding high in the Championship. Ayr are really going to fancy themselves to cause Hibs a lot of bother in terms of, sort of confidence and taking that momentum from the league into this. It's going to be a team that really believes in itself. Yeah,
confidence is, like you say, it's a massive thing in football, and it's something Ayr are full of at the moment. I think, since they're kind of lull in the middle of the season, they've won 10 of their last 12 games. They've scored 29 goals, which is thrown off slightly because, of course, they scored 8 against Broxburn in the last round of the Cup. But the most impressive things, they've only conceded 6 goals in that time, 4 of which came in across 2 games. So I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's just kind of 2 goals conceded in their last 6 games. And they've only lost once at Somerset Park this season. And that's going to be a a huge thing is the kind of home advantage that they've got there. I mean, away from the kind of playing surface itself, the support you've got there, it's a proper traditional old school ground with your kind of rail terraces, and I think that's going to possibly upset Hibs, because even though they're in a kind of good run of form themselves, it's not the kind of venue that they're used to coming to, and it's something that the Ayr will thrive on, especially with, like you say, you're expecting a big crowd there on Friday night. So certainly it's going to be interesting, and the Hibs are going to have a challenge in breaking Ayr down. It's something that a lot of teams have struggled to do recently, and whether they can find the answer to how to do that's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Aye, I mean, I think it's always interesting with the venue and how much or how well the sort of so-called bigger clubs react to that. They sort of change their surroundings. The crowd's going to be right on top of you. Maybe a few boys in that Hibs team who have maybe not experienced something like that before. Whereas, on the flip side of that, there are plenty who have. For example, even Nicky Cadden had a spell at Hibs. Sorry, not at Hibs. Ayr United currently plays for Hibs. Of course, told you I get my words constantly all over the place. I'm surprised people don't call me out on it more often, to be honest with you. But I think just maybe to finish off, just a bit about Scott Brown, because obviously there is that connection to Hibs. Came through the ranks there. He was very popular as a player. He's got Stephen Whittaker there as his assistant. How would you sort of sum up the job that he's done?
The job that he's done has been really impressive, and I think it's the squad he's built. When I'm talking about that kind of starting 11 that he's got, and it's reasonably settled at the moment. They've not had the challenges with injuries, and he set up a team that's capable of doing a little bit of everything. You can see there's options there for a plan A, a plan B if that's not working, and that's vital. And one thing Ayr United teams in the past have done well up the kind of top end of the championship, but before that they were a real yo-yo team. One season they'd be up the top, they'd be down the bottom, and a lot of that was down to they would have one player there who kind of led the line and scored a great amount of goals. Initially that was Lawrence Shankland before he gets moved to Dundee United, and then after that, the last time they finished second place in the championship, it was Dipo Akinyemi that scored a ridiculous amount of goals. But there was always that feeling of what's going to happen should they leave, which did happen, and then coincided with a kind of downturn in form the following season. So the fact that he's built a full squad there now is kind of testament to what he's trying to do, and you can tell he's enjoying the project that they're building at Ayr. Off the park, the club's doing a phenomenal job as well, and they're really trying to establish themselves as a strong club. And Scott Brown's fully on board with that. You can see that there's been the test there of the St Johnstone job becoming available, and more recently the Motherwell job, both of which he's ruled himself out of, and even a kind of smaller scale, I think the Raith Rovers job coming up right at the beginning of the season, and he's not really moved from his position of he's committed to Ayr United, and I think they are just really enjoying everything that's going on there, and it's kind of bearing fruit on the park as well, and they're starting to build a squad which has got strength and depth as well. You see Curtis Main coming in just to kind of provide a bit more firepower up front, because with Anton Dowds being injured, George Oakley's kind of been the main man up there. Now they've got a little bit of everything, and they can change it up if and when required. And I think the job they've done is really impressive. They speak really well. They speak really highly of the club, and it's exactly what you want of the man that's going to be leading you going forward. And that commitment that he's shown to the club's something that perhaps they thought they might not get with a name of this in the stature of Scott Brown, but he's proved a lot of people wrong on that front, and I think Ayr fans will say long may it continue.
Aye, absolutely. It certainly seems like a club where everybody's pulling in the same direction. But obviously Hibs fans will hope that doesn't carry on too strongly on Friday night. But I think the sense I'm getting is that it's set up to be a really, really good cup tie, and one that if Hibs are going to go through, they probably will really have to work for it. So it's going to be a cracker, I would imagine. Murray, I want to thank you for joining us. Some brilliant insight there into Ayr United, some really granular stuff to get a better look at Friday's opponents. So we're going to leave it there for today, folks. As I said, we'll continue building into Friday's cup tie with all our usual coverage, press conference, pre and post match. all of that covered there. So, yes, Friday night, Ayr United versus Hibs, Somerset Park in the Scottish Cup. Safe travels to anybody who's heading down. I hope everybody enjoys the game. Once again, Murray, thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate it. If you're watching us on YouTube, folks, please do take a wee moment to subscribe to the channel. It helps us keep on producing this extra content for you, and obviously it means you'll get a notification every time we go live or post a new video, so you don't miss out on anything at all. Thank you again for joining us, folks, and we'll speak to you again very, very soon. Cheers.
Cheers.